wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that will spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why he said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it.
Jake has had double jaw surgery, 4 plates, 8 screws in his face, and everybody is just kind of breezing past that like it's no big deal. But I'm looking further into this because that's no easy surgery, and I'm starting to ask the question, is this the beginning of the end of Jake Paul's boxing career?
As his brother, I was just shocked. I'm in the hospital with the guy, and he's like, yo, can you make this TikTok? Can you film this for me? He's like laughing and having a good time.
The agenda against Anthony Joshua, because it feels to me like that fight, I before the fight, I was refusing to accept the principle that this fight could be scripted.
Boxing world has exploded with backlash, with some critics going as far as saying Anthony Joshua should be arrested for the damage he caused to Jake Paul inside the ring. Many argue the fight crossed a dangerous threshold after Jake suffered serious injuries, including multiple jaw fractures that required surgery and metal screws. Commentators and experts heavily criticized the matchup, claiming Joshua's power and aggression were far beyond what was appropriate for a crossover opponent. The severity of the injuries stunned fans and professionals alike, reigniting heated discussions about fighters' safety, responsible matchmaking, and whether high-profile bouts like this
away from the power. You could call it running, and you'll be right. You can also say it's smart for a guy Jake's size and understanding that AJ is a fucking monster. It's also smart to fight that way. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing. It was not.
Analyst Brian Campbell and Shaka Majui broke down Jake Paul's fight with Anthony Joshua by examining both the strategy and the physical punishment Paul absorbed. They explained that Joshua's power inflicted significant damage, ultimately leading to jaw surgery. To survive, Jake relied almost entirely on movement and evasive tactics, circling constantly and staying off the ropes. While this approach lacked defense, it helped him last longer than many expected against such a dangerous opponent. Campbell and Majui noted that Jake's focus on mobility and ring awareness helped preserve stamina and reduce damage, but Joshua's sheer strength still resulted in visible injuries. Their analysis highlighted the importance of defensive planning, while also underscoring the serious risks involved when mismatched fighters meet on a massive stage.
Could this be the end for him in terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring?
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a 2-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul. And we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age, to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so, because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there. There's the Tommy Fury rematch. There is ways for Jake Paul to
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping reacted strongly to Jake Paul's loss, calling Joshua's performance a clear demonstration of elite professional boxing. Bisping stressed how outmatched Jake was, pointing to Joshua's precision, timing, and devastating power. He explained that Joshua's combinations and uppercuts left Paul with little space to escape, exposing major flaws in his defense and strategy. According to Bisping, The broken jaw and sustained punishment were the direct result of facing a much larger, stronger, and more skilled opponent than Jake had ever dealt with. He emphasized that confidence and promotional hype cannot prepare someone for the technical and physical demands of an elite heavyweight. Although Jake showed toughness by enduring the rounds, the fight made the gap between top professionals and celebrity boxers impossible to ignore. Outside the ring, the financial aspect of the bout also drew attention. Reports claim both fighters earned,
in my humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? A lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing, it's not MMA as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round, he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, and a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough to...
making it one of the highest paying boxing events ever streamed on Netflix. However, Joshua's payout was heavily reduced by taxes. As a UK resident competing in the United States, he faced both US federal taxes and UK international tax obligations, potentially losing around $66 million of his purse. As a US-based fighter, Jake Paul avoided that extra tax burden, allowing him to keep a larger portion despite losing. The situation highlighted how dramatically taxes can alter headline earnings in international boxing. Joshua's performance a clear demonstration of elite professional boxing. Bisping stressed how outmatched Jake was.
Has to pay, as you see here, a whopping $43 million. $43 million of his $92 million purse. That means Anthony Joshua was left with $49 million. Right? Now, he also has to pay, I believe, 10% of that to his promoter, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie.
Dominic Engel delivered a blunt evaluation of Jake Paul's performance, explaining that Jake's main strategy was survival rather than trading punches, which made it hard for Joshua to corner him. Even after taking a heavy right hand, Jake stayed composed, showing resilience. Engel pointed out that Joshua had no reason to fight at full intensity over 8 rounds against someone at Jake's level. He compared it to cases where elite fighters like Tyson Fury adjust their effort based on the opponent. Engel argued that boxers often perform only to the level required, and whenever Joshua landed cleanly, Jake felt it. Overall, Engel described the bout as controlled, pointing to Joshua's precision, timing, and devastating power. He explained that Joshua's
random fight, and AJ's not the best at closing people off, and it's hard chasing somebody down who don't want to engage, and then he tagged him every now and again. So
does it look bad on him because there was one right hook that he took was a serious shot, but obviously he didn't flinch from it, but
not really, because you'll take into consideration that you can get, there will be, look, there'll be no way. Well, Anthony Joshua thought, if he hits me, there's a possibility he's going to hurt me. And I felt a couple of shots early on in the fight. There's no way Jake Paul at the level he's at, I know his box and what he's done, that he's, you know, and it's like AJ, like you say, he's got to have completely gone and be punch drunk for Jake Paul to beat him. After the last fight against Dubois, people think, well, his jaw's gone there, he can't take a shot. Of course he can take a shot. And it's weighing up the opposition, and he weighed up the opposition. And he's not going to be training like he trained for Usyk or for the big fights. He won't do that because they can't get motivated enough to do it. They'll do enough to do the rounds. What was it, an 8-rounder?
Yeah.
So, same again. So he did enough. He never looked in any trouble. It didn't look great, you know, but Tyson Fury didn't look great against Ngannou, did he? But who did he box after Ngannou?
So Usyk?
Exactly. But you would have never thought, looking at the performance against Ngannou with Tyson, you would never have thought that he put in the performance he did against Usyk.
So you think it's more of a case of you kind of, no matter how good you are and how much you train, if the opposition isn't great, you sometimes
you're going to box at the level of the opponent because the opponent makes you fight at that level.
That's quite a fair.
So, but when AJ did do what he got to and manages to...
Noting that while Jake showed defensive awareness and toughness, the fight was never truly competitive.